If you're the meeting organizer, press star now. You are now joining the meeting. Please wait for the leader to admit you to the meeting. Thank you for your patience.
Tom, you're somewhat mute. We got some kind of sound going on in the background.
It's indigestion. It's indigestion.
He was lighting up, so I know it was him.
Lighting up.
Good morning, West Haven is on.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Right. I hear the mayor.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's the mayor, myself, and Michael.
Hello, Michael.
Hi, Kim.
Why is this?
Feels like forever since I've talked to you.
Who, to me?
Yeah.
Oh. I've called you repeatedly, but you haven't called me back. I'm only kidding. That was a joke. I know how busy you are. Julian is... He's always there. There goes the next month on my contract.
All right, we have Tom. I'm going to, when we have a forum, I'll get things started. We need one more, so it's either got to be, wait, no, we have a forum. Forgive me. Okay, then we can get this meeting started. The plan for today, just so you're aware, is the secretary will be joining, but will be joining a little late, so I will get things started. And Julian, if you start recording, please. Oh, it says we have guests in the lobby.
I'm not showing anybody in the lobby, but I just got an email from Bob White asking me to resend the link, so let me do that.
Okay.
I just sent Bob White the link. It may take him a minute to
That's fine.
get signed in.
Julian, I'm gonna leave it to you to tell me when.
Okay, if you, I mean, we could get started momentarily.
Sounds like a dentist's office.
Somebody's done.
See, that's yours.
I think that might work.
Tell me when.
So we're still waiting on Bob. I can start recording and we can get started if you want, and hopefully he'll be joining momentarily.
That's right.
Alright, I'm gonna start the recording so I don't forget. There, great.
This meeting is being recorded and/or transcribed.
Forever for me to connect.
Oh, I know, that's this.
Really?
I read it.
Okay, Mr. White is joining and we're recording.
Thank you, Julian.
Screen.
Okay, it is 10:07, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is the Wednesday Committee of the MARB. It is March 23rd, and we do have a forum today. I'm Kimberly Kennison. I am the designee for Secretary McCaw, and with me today is Christine Shaw. She's the designee for Treasurer Wooden. I currently don't have any opening remarks this morning. Christine, do you happen to have any opening remarks? No, I do not. Okay, then let's get to the first order of business today, and that is the approval of the minutes of February the 23rd. Motion?
I can listen to yours. This is what I don't know.
So moved, this is Tom Hamilton.
Thank you, Tom. Second?
Steve Falsigno.
Thank you, Steve. Any discussion? No discussion. Can we get a roll call vote?
Mr. White? Yes. Mr. Hamilton? Yes. Mr. Falsigno? Yes. Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
And Ms. Kennison?
Yes.
That's everybody. Julian, I'm here too. Oh, thanks, Brad. Do you have a vote on the minutes? Yeah, fine, yes. Okay.
Your pick.
Julian and Melissa, if you could reflect on the record that I'm stating.
That's very good.
All right. Then the minutes have been approved, and we go on to the next agenda item, which is going to be the fiscal 2022 recommended budget, and I'm going to turn it over to the secretary.
Great, good morning to all of you here today. Looking forward to the updated West Haven fiscal 2022 budget submission for our review. I'm actually going to ask the city through Mayor Rossi or her designee to provide us with a walkthrough of the budget as proposed. Thank you, over to you, Mayor.
Go ahead and do it. Answer any follow-up questions about funding.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. So you should have a copy of the fiscal 22 budget, as Julian sent to you. Just some highlights. What is not included in this budget in the revenue section is the additional pilot money that was recently voted on. We do not have any firm information as to amounts or when that pilot change would be funded. So for prudency's sake, we did not include any assumptions at all for that money coming through in this budget. What is included in the budget, you'll notice in the current services section, the very first line, record legal instrument fees. That number does reflect an increase associated with the increased conveyance fees for the city. So that has been taken into account. Everything else, we did actually remove the funding for the restructuring amount for the year, so that is not reflected in the revenue section. And we do have a line item in the other agencies area for the American Recovery Plan that was communicated to Mayor Rossi, so that has been added in there. For the expenditure side, just a high-level summary. Board of Education, the amount received from the city funding has been kept equal to last year. The superintendent has indicated that he could fund additional costs from other sources and not need the money from the city. We do have some new hires and some built into the plan. So one is a new HR generalist to assist with the personnel department as we continue to overhaul that area. From a structural perspective, in the finance department, we are adding one individual that will be dedicated to all the grants accounting for the city. So taking care of not only LoCIP or federal grants that are coming through, but also assisting CDA and the Department of Justice with their grants as well. Having a dedicated person will ensure that the city recoups all the revenues that they are entitled to. As you know, that we have had an issue in the past making those requests, especially for LoCIP funds, so we are trying to get caught up with that. The goal is to be able to provide a monthly update to the council as to where we are with grants, just as we do with the normal financials. So increasing visibility there. We have an additional person being added to the finance department as an administrative clerk. This will be a floater position dedicated mostly to finance, assisting with the filing and the record keeping for the accounts payable area, for the grants department, and assisting them with their files, and the purchasing to assist with all the bid documentations, etc. This position will eliminate a write-up that has happened in the audit regarding the purchasing documents for the past couple of years. This position will also be, as indicated, a floater position should any other department require administrative assistance. We do also have, I believe, a new hire within the police department. No, within the corp council, I think is adding a head.
IT.
Oh, I'm sorry, not corp council, IT. We're adding an IT supervisor. Okay, thank you. An IT network supervisor to assist with all of the activity that needs to happen within the IT department. We've just hired the new IT manager. He is in position. So this individual will be able to help shore up any issues within the IT department, and thereby eliminating the need or most of the need for outside IT support. Other than that, the budget is relatively flat to last year. We are reflecting a minor increase in the, I believe, in the mill rate. The other thing is to note is that within the debt service area, the debt advisor has indicated that with the timing of the 22 bonds that will happen at the end of September, there should be no impact on fiscal 22 itself. The interest payments for that bonding will not hit until fiscal '23. So the numbers reflected are inclusive of all the fiscal '21 bonding and all the current projects that are up to date. You'll notice that on page 101, the debt service area, we've broken out the Board of Education from the city's debt, as well as spiking out the impact of the deficit bond that continues to be paid down. You can see that's a $2 million price tag per annum to the city. On page 102, you'll see the debt service projection using the 5-year capital plan that's in the budget. You'll see a drop-off in fiscal '23. As previously indicated, that is the retirement of the police pension bond. And fiscal '24 and '25 continues to increase as the high school project and the Washington school rebuild are bonded for, and those take effect. The drop-off you'll see in '26 and '27 relate to refunding bonds that will be expiring in those years. So the debt service is expected to come back down again, which is good for the city, right? So all of that information is built based on the 5-year capital plan that's included in the budget. If there are any specific questions, I will certainly do my best to answer those questions.
Great. Thank you. Great, thank you, Frank. Bob, did you want to jump in with some questions?
Sure, I'll go after you if you want, but.
No, go right ahead, sir. You have the floor.
Yeah, Frank, congratulations on the grand list increase. That's a home run. One question is, any large appeals pending or expected? I used to know when the deadline was, but because the world is upside down, I don't.
No, we have, as far as I know, we have no large appeals that are pending right now. So this grand list should remain stable.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very pleased with the revaluation. You'll notice that in the previous years, let's see, forgive me, I'm trying to find the page here. On page 28, where it has the historical mill rate, you'll notice that in 13-14 range and the 17-18 range, where the last revaluations happened, the mill rate actually had to be increased because the valuation came down. So very pleased to see West Haven's property valuations going up, as well as hopefully being a sign of future development within the city.
Thank you.
Frank, this is a good day for West Haven. So let me just touch upon the highlights. It looks like you have about a 0.1% overall revenue increase, relatively flat. You've captured the grand list growth that you've experienced. From an intergovernmental perspective, you are flat funding municipal aid with the exception of carrying about $1.575 million from the ARP. Just want to talk a little bit about your assumptions surrounding use of those dollars. Obviously, we have a couple of different proposals that are hanging out there that will wait final budget deliberations. What were your thoughts on use of those dollars based on the bill that passed, and how are you going to make that eligible in the general fund?
I'll let the mayor speak to that.
Let me just talk over there. Sorry, musical chairs. If I talk from my computer, we're going to get an echo. Everybody can hear me, correct? Okay. The use of the fund.
Yes, go right ahead there.
I've actually done some
Can you
research.
speak a little louder, Mayor, please?
Sure. Can you hear me now? Everybody can hear?
It's a little light. but we can hear you.
All right, let me try, I'm getting closer and closer.
Take your mask off.
Here you go, that's better.
Okay, there, yeah, because I want everybody to be able to hear it. I checked, because originally, I agree when it passed, they were just talking COVID funding, which is still the main use of the money. That being said, though, I did reach out to Senator Blumenthal, Rosa DeLaura's office, to try to gain some more information. And I specifically asked the senator, I got to speak with him, if we could use it, in this budget, if it was COVID related. And he said he said yes. He goes, and as time goes on, they're going to give a lot more directives of it. And he said they're going to make it more flexible down the road. I used a small amount of the money because, again, I know that we'll be able, there's going to, I wish I was wrong, but I do believe there's going to, COVID expenses are not going to cease on June the 30th, and we do have a lot of them. Additionally, I've been told that we can also use it in FY21, and we have a lot of additional COVID expenditures in '21. So I did do my best with due diligence. I've also been on 3 CCM webinars, and Frank, myself, and the Assistant Finance Director have also signed up for a webinar on March the 31st. And I'm also going to look for Mayor Bronin's link, because my understanding is he's going to roll out what Hartford is doing, and I always like to look to other municipalities to find out what uses they are going to do with their funding as well. So again, we're trying to be very, very conservative in doing that. And if there's any place else additionally I can get research, I'd be happy to do it, because I'm very interested in finding out all I can about this funding.
So Mayor, and for the committee, until we get explicit guidance from U.S. Treasury, this is going to have to be a soft assumption. The bill that passed does allow for revenue replacement, but it is comparing your revenue to fiscal 2019, which is the year right before the pandemic, where Haven's revenues are higher in fiscal 19, but part of your revenues being lower, it looks to be a mill rate reduction. There is some language in there that restricts use of these funds when it coincides with reducing taxes. We've got to be very cautious about that. Also, obviously, COVID-related expenses that I'm assuming you have those expenses baked into this expenditure budget. Otherwise, we will be looking for Treasury to give flexibility the way they did last time through CRF. For example, CRF guidance indicated that public safety and public health costs that are deemed to be substantially dedicated to the emergency, you could cover those salaries and fringes. So in order for this assumption to use it in your general fund budget to hold true, I think we're going to have to go back and re-look at the provisions surrounding reductions in revenues and revenues as compared to fiscal 19 dates, and we're going to need guidance from Treasury making it clear what expenses you're currently paying for. They basically allowed us to plan. We're going to need that type of guidance coming out of Treasury in order for you to rely on the ARP funds to support your current operations. So I just want to flag that. We're all in limbo for at least another 30 to 45 days. And we hope, obviously, that with the congressional delegation reporting is what comes out in guidance. So we'll move forward assuming that this works, but before this budget passes, we'll need to make sure that the 1.75 in the general fund is a accurate assumption for you. Okay.
All right. Also, I did want to ask, because I had heard that once the money is released, and it's supposed to be released within the 60 days, and all that I've read or been involved with has stated that we also could use some of the funding that is released at that point in time, which is supposed to be 50%, for FY21. Have you heard anything to the contrary, Secretary, as far as that goes?
I've heard that it will be 50% within the 60 days, so obviously you could use it for fiscal 21, but I would advise you to use it starting in fiscal 22 since you are in good shape for the current year. Now, there might be some expenditures, maybe you want to do a little bit more vaccine support or, door-to-door canvassing, et cetera. But as far as assumptions on balancing your budget, I would urge you to focus on fiscal 22. in '23. At the end of the day, until we get guidance from Treasury, we won't have great clarity. So we'll need to hold that back.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
let's move beyond, I have a couple of other questions in here. I will have, and then I'm gonna open up to anyone else. Frank, can you just advise us 2 other items? I know that employee benefits have been trending lower than prior years. Part of that is the use of telehealth, less confidence, or folks that are not going out to their elective procedures, et cetera. And I see you have a decrease in employee benefits. I just wanted to have you comment on the assumptions on that health insurance increase. We are, at the state level, starting to see that pent-up demand materializing. Our costs are starting to go up. So just want to hear your thoughts on how you budget for health insurance, and finally, the amount of the contingency for fiscal 2023.
Sure, so the health insurance is budgeted in 2 lines, right? So the partnership plan line is built up by person using the current enrollment. Any new hires are included in that at a family rate. The retiree line, the $4.755 million, that number came directly from Lockton as guidance to where they believe the retiree costs were going to be next year. That number we took from Lockton. The number that they gave us for 21 was the $5.2 million. We are seeing that number come in, as you mentioned, Secretary McCaw, much lower than that in the current year. So I don't know if they used that as part of their model when they worked up what the assumptions were going to be. But again, that 4.755 came directly as guidance from Lockton.
Great. Other questions? Or comments from board members?
Right, I haven't gone through the prior stuff that we had, but what is the mill rate that you're implementing compared to what was in the 5-year plan? And I completely understand that because of the added grand list, you're able to lower it, which is good. But what's the delta?
I believe the 5-year plan had a 1.05 increase to the mill rate, and if I remember correctly, if I use the grand list amounts from the 5-year plan in the current budget, this mill rate would have gone up 0.2, I believe. So not where we thought we were going to be needed with the 5-year plan.
Okay, and the revenue is about the same?
That is correct.
Yeah. Against 5-year plan, though.
That is correct. The revenues, the taxation revenues, I believe are a couple $100,000 lower than the 5-year plan. Again, with some of the costs, we expected a much heavier debt service cost in fiscal '22 when we built the plan. I had used an assumption of full impact of the '22 bonding in the fiscal '22 cost cycle.
And given the grand list increase, the expectation of revenue against plan for '23 should be improved?
That is correct. I'm currently working up the new 5-year plan. I had originally hoped to be able to provide it along with the budget, but I wanted to wait until we heard about the new pilot funding, so I could include that on the out years.
Understood. Now, Secretary, I don't know when or if you want to discuss this, but there was a mention in the transmittal letter of perhaps West Haven is on target to meet the requirements for not having to come with us, meet with us anymore. I'm personally very disappointed, but I understand the sentiment. I don't know what the legal issues are, but I do think it's appropriate to discuss that.
Absolutely. Thank you for raising that, Bob. So, based on current law, a Tier 3 or Tier 4 designated municipality would have to have 3 consecutive years with no operating deficit in the general fund. So that would be 8 year-end experience, remove the municipal restructuring, because that is propping the budget up, and have 3 years of being able to sustain themselves without a deficit. Second requirement is to maintain the bond rating or improve the bond rating. As compared to the municipality was originally designated, the bond rating can be investment grade, which it does. The third requirement is to receive approval of a multi-year financial plan that shows a positive general fund balance for the 3 succeeding consecutive years. And then finally, have audited results for the 3 years demonstrating positive general fund balances each. So, we should go back and spend some time at looking at the prior fiscal year, remove the municipal restructuring fund to determine whether or not you were in balance. And then the first year in which you were in balance with removing it is the start of that clock.
No.
And certainly, if fiscal 22 holds true as you're proposing here, that would be another year towards meeting that requirement. I'll be happy to send a summary of this out to the board and also over to you, Mayor, and to your team. Now, that being said, a municipality that's on a sustainable track needs a lighter touch, right? Some of the work has been done, but then there's the work of sustaining them. And we put a lot of work in terms of your HR, your payroll, getting those teams up to speed, implementing all of those recommendations, your IT infrastructure, and your use of the system. We expect you to finish all of that work, but you could be on a cruise control, if you will, finishing the infrastructure while continuing to financially thrive with no operating deficits. I think that I can certainly see that in your path. But this is I think this fiscal 22 budget is the start of the change in momentum, if you will, that could be sustained. West Haven will be in good shape, and then there has to be a commitment to the work that's been done here to maintaining that independently, and you'll have to find to demonstrate that, but you're certainly on the right track.
And I think,
Bob, is that answer your question? Okay, then I receive consent. Someone asking a question?
no, Secretary McCall, I was just going to say that in relation to your comment around sustainability, that's why I think it's important that we did take a look at the debt service, because that is a very large part of our budget, to the point where, or to the extent where we can use some of the municipal, distressed municipality funding that is being provided to West Haven, that we can use that funding to do capital projects that will also help with the debt service, with the assumption, at least in my mind, with the assumption being that whatever savings that we would see from not having to bond for those projects, those funds could be reinvested into the personnel and to shore up some of the open positions that we have here in the city at effectively a zero cost impact to the city.
I think that's fair. The challenge is here we are in March, and a lot of those decisions won't be made until late May. But your strategy to take dollars that are somewhat one-time in nature and use them for one-time or short-term investments is a sound one. And I agree, because we give relief to your debt service budget. You know, a lot of other municipalities use a blend of bonding and cash financing. for that very reason, so you don't have that gradual increase in debt service that's, growing faster than the rate of growth of revenue. So I think your thinking is sound, it's a recommendation to the mayor, and that we will all be continuing to update you as the governor, myself, and the legislature negotiate this budget, and the Fed give us greater clarity on the short-term dollars that are coming your way. But it seems like the basic structure of this budget is sound, and the only question mark is the use of the 1.575 and whether or not your contingency is adequate. Can you remind the board of what you have in reserve?
Is the current fund balance, you mean?
Yes.
Is the current fund balance as audited from fiscal 21 is $3.6 million. In the current year, we do have a line item in the fiscal 21 for a $600,000 contribution to that, so that is built into the contingency. In fiscal 22, we have another $300,000 built into general fund growth, as well as $600,000 of unallocated contingency. So obviously, if those events don't arise where those are needed, that will in turn help to grow the general fund balance.
Okay.
The-
I mean, that's one of your main goals is to get that 2.5%, obviously something close to 5%, and
Yeah.
you're showing consistency and making contributions toward a fund balance that will really hold you in years when you have a challenge.
Absolutely.
And any other thoughts on that from the board?
Madam Secretary, all the general fund balance and its relation to terminating oversight, how does that play out? I mean, we have some guideposts in there. Are those based into the statute or is just proof?
Let's see, they are baked into the statute, it's CPS 7-576F, and 576G. And it is audited results for 3 years demonstrating positive general fund balance. So they're positive.
All right, so it's just positive, it's not at 5%.
No,
Okay.
it's not. I believe we have had some guidance that's come out that, recommend municipalities or what would be a healthy fund balance, as, research best practices, GSLA, et cetera. But as far as the meeting the letter of the law, it's positive. That'd be positive. Okay, we'll send that one over, so that everyone has that for their record. So with that, other questions on the general fund, and then I wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to discuss the Allentown Fire Fund in the event there were any questions there from the board, from the subcommittee.
Can I ask about the recovery, the American recovery, the rest of those dollars? Mary, just sort of curious, I sort of view, right, the students would use that 1.5 for the general fund budget to still leave a lot of money that sort of presents a very big opportunity for West Haven and such for all the state and other communities. Just sort of curious if you've sort of begun to think about what the process is for figuring out how you're going to spend those, allocate those dollars, and what that looks like.
Well, I am, as I said, I'm trying to gather as much information as I'm sure most mayors and first selectmen are as well. And I'm hoping as the next 30 days do roll out, we have a lot more guidance. Obviously, to me, no matter where you toss and turn it, it's one-time revenue, so it's not anything like to hire positions, but it would be to do other things, whether it be infrastructure that, we are suffering in. And we did put aside $2 million in our 5-year capital plan for paving. Our roads are terrible, so we have a great need. But right now, the only thing I did take was, as I said, a small amount to put into this budget. But I'm hoping as guidance comes out and as it does and we have a plan, we will come forward with it. I have thought out, as Frank had said, if we can do capital projects with it and that type of thing, it'll take the pressure off of the bonding and the interest rate and all the costs associated with bonding. So again, first off, we're very excited and happy and pleased. This is a problem West Haven hasn't dealt with in a long time, is that we're getting this type of money that we can use to help the city and help the infrastructure. So I would rather deal with this problem of looking for good spending, again, not just spending for the sake of spending. And we're also looking at, hopefully, in the governor's budget, that the other amounts would be approved for the tier pilot and also for the distressed municipality funding. So again, we listened to the directives from the secretary about not putting any of that money into the budget, and we did not, both the tier pilot additional funding and also the distressed municipalities, because I understand that until the governor's budget is passed and funded, we won't know that for some time now. But that is the plan. I don't know if Frank wants to add anything to it, but that is definitely the plan. Sorry, Frank.
I would think the benefit of having the department heads actually go through and put some heavy thought around their capital requirements makes it very easy for us to be able to identify projects that are infrastructure related or other structural related that we could use these monies for. So it's not as though we're at ground zero just trying to figure out what to do. I think the department heads have, and as you can see, beginning on page 120 of the budget, they have put some thought behind what needs to be replaced, whether it's facilities, whether it's kind of IT infrastructure, some of the heavy equipment that, quite frankly, is rusting out from underneath them. So to the extent that we do have guidance, we do have projects that are identified and ready to go.
Hopefully what we're hearing in there is some economic development areas of the city that have been impacted by COVID that might get properties ready for development. Appetites at the table, eventually those properties are contributing to your tax rolls. These are some of the transformative ideas that the governor continues to speak to, and we'd love to see municipalities making those investments that are going to pay some dividends in the future. So it looks like you're certainly headed in that direction. Why don't we very quickly turn to the Allentown Fire Fund? I just want to have us understand a little bit further. I see that there's a considerable decrease in property taxes, as well as essentially a reduction in the mill rate. And perhaps, Frank, you could just very briefly walk us through some of the changes. The mill rate goes down from about 14.2 to 10.91. Their new accounts for capital and unfunded pensions are being reduced. And this has been an area that the board has been focused on and making sure you're making progress towards your unfunded pension liabilities. We want to understand what the basis for these recommendations. So Frank, over to you.
Sure, so thank you. So you'll see on page 115 the breakdown of the revenues. There are two lines in there that were not part of the 5-year plan for fiscal 22. One of them is the FEMA grant. The department did receive a grant notification that they've been awarded $300,000 for a replacement fire vehicle. So that is reflected in the revenues. It is also reflected on the cost side on page 117 in the trucks line at the bottom of the operational section. The majority of what's driving this reduction to taxation revenue is the unexpected continuation of the motor vehicle grant that's coming through. So the $960,000 that we were notified would be coming into fiscal 22 and continuing for a few more years. That was not built into the 5-year plan. That was not expected. So that is what's,
I'm sorry,
Yep.
can you repeat the name of the grant that you're referencing?
It's the pilot for motor vehicles, the pilot from motor vehicle tax.
it's the motor, yeah, it's, I'm told it's the motor vehicle pilot money?
Immersive?
Yes. 900,000 is what we had in the fiscal '21 budget. It actually came in at 960. We were not expecting anything to come in beyond that. So it was quite,
You thought that you thought that your community aid pertaining to the, immersive motor vehicle adjustment was going to be kept zero in the out years? You didn't see flat community aid in this particular case?
in the 5-year plan, that is correct. This was revenues that Representative DeMassa had acquired for the 3 fire districts for the loss in the motor vehicle revenues.
Okay.
So we weren't expecting anything beyond the 3 years that we had already gotten. So all of that revenue is being applied as the reduction to the taxation revenue required out of the Allentown residents.
Okay. And how are you doing from a pension perspective as it pertains to the Allentown Fire Department?
The pension contribution is, it is the 100% of the ADEC. We are in the process of having a new valuation put together for the next 4 years. Now, in pure, for visibility's sake, we did not take any of that additional $960,000 and apply it as an additional contribution to the pension as we did in fiscal '21.
Can you remind us what the funded status of the pension is and what your investment rate of return currently is?
I believe the funding is at 28%, if I'm recalling correctly. And the return assumptions are, I believe, 6% in the actuarial, and we are cranking those back as we have with the police pension reval.
You said you're reducing the rate of return?
We are reducing the rate of return in the current actuarial valuation. That's what was recommended by Miller.
Fiscal year, has that factored that in your budget yet?
We have not, I have not seen anything from Milliman, so this was the last number we had from the actuary.
Questions from the board?
Yeah, Tom Hamilton. Question, Frank, on the OPEB. Can you comment on whether you're making any contributions for your OPEB liability in either the city or any of the fire budgets?
Yeah, we have not yet this year, but there will be a contribution made to the OPEB trust. That is in the fiscal '21 budget. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's $150,000. Let me just double check that for you. $125,000 for this year and $150,000 next year. Again, that's kind of a drop in the bucket for what's required, but it is a step in the right direction.
Right, okay, and is that just on the city side, or does that also include some allocation or amount on the Allentown Fire District?
That would be just on the city side, sir.
Okay.
Frank, to follow up on Tom's question, if I understand this, then the fire district is reducing the mill rate because of the 900 unexpected, and is contributing zero to a pretty substantial OPEB jet on the fire department side. Correct?
That is correct. That is what the budget submission was.
we might want to talk about that.
I agree.
The other thing is, in the MOU, I think there was, for 21, there was a provision that the board be updated on plan by the fire district, by at least Allentown, and I think all the fire districts, to reduce the need for taxation while funding other measures. And other than having a meetings by the chiefs and perhaps agreeing to come and, definitely I don't think we've seen a equivalent to a 5-year plan to get to any of the fire districts to pass responsibility.
And I just want to jump in there, I would agree, the MARB and OPM have spent a considerable amount of time working with you on the underfunding of these pensions. We'd be remiss to ignore that you're at risk. For quite a period of time, we asked for an analysis from your actuaries as to what point some of the really low funded pensions would not have funding to meet their obligations. And so I do want to know where that stands, but also I would say a 28% funded plan, you take the entire $900,000 to do a mill rate adjustment and not add funds to exceed your ADA, is not financially prudent. There's certainly a happy medium, but to ignore a 28% underfunded plan and utilize those revenues for a mill rate increase when we're putting firefighters' pension at stake is not acceptable. So that is one edit that I'd like to see made to this plan, and then I will let you respond to Bob's questions on the outstanding analysis that we are looking for.
Yeah, I can circle back with the fire districts on the analysis. I have not seen anything from either West Shore or from the center district.
Greg, I take it that the 900,000 that Allentown enjoys is not reflected, and the other two districts don't get that, or they do get it, or what?
They are both getting some revenues. I do not know the level of the funding that they are getting.
Michael has it.
West Shore received $356,000, and West Haven First Center $793,000, and then Allentown $982,000. In all cases, the governor's budget held municipalities responsible and did not reduce community aid, so their dollars have also been sustained. We might want to ask those same questions to the other two fire districts as to whether they had not anticipated these dollars recurring. They seem to be making progress in some of their pension issues as well.
Understood.
Frank, I have a question.
Yes.
Regarding, what's the funding ratio of the police pension fund?
I believe the police is over 90% funded.
Currently over 9.
Yes, last night they talked about it.
Okay. And you said the discount rate for Allentown for the pension fund was 6%?
I think that was the last valuation, yes. But again, they're changing their assumptions on the current valuation.
New mortality tables came out last year. Did the funds adopt those?
I would have to contact the actuary. As far as I know, I have not seen any new mortality tables, so I don't believe that anything's been done with them.
Okay, so I'd like to know, I guess, inquire with that, with the actuary, with new mortality tables, and also, if the funds did adopt them, I'm gonna assume they didn't, and if they didn't, how would that affect the ADAC?
I will circle back and make sure that that's addressed with the current valuation.
Great, so note for you that most actuaries are recommending moving to a generational mortality methodology. It's supposed to lead to a more accurate result, but in many cases it does increase the ADAC in the short term. So the strategy, I think, in this case should really be to utilize the funds and expect to continue to invest in pension, and it will give you a buffer next year when when your evaluation gets updated, and now your ADEX reflects more current methodologies for mortality tables, and the lower discount rate, so you're not having a drop in mill rate to your constituents and then having to then bring it back up. Maybe there's a slight decrease, but you keep that investment in your base and to help with some of those changes. But I think I heard Kim jumping in there as well. Kim?
Actually, Christine, the same shot, a follow-up question. Thank you, Madam Secretary. So, it's clear from this line of questioning that there's a great deal of interest, and I think it deserves some focused discussion around the pension obligations for the city and the fire district. I know that there have been past discussions around an examination of consolidating the management of the various funds, and I think there was to be an RFP issued to do that. Can you give us an update on where matters stand with that, with discussion of that issue?
I'm gonna yield to Attorney Tiernan, who is coming over.
I have a little bit of,
Hello? Should I speak?
sorry, Secretary, Madam. It's Kim. I do have a little bit of
some clarity on that?
Yeah, this is Kim, I do. I know that the tri-districts were just approved for their MOU between the three districts. That just occurred like a month and a half ago. And they have appointed their members, and I believe will be having their very first meeting. I think it is this month, if I recall right. So all of the work that were recommended from the study then began, because the first thing was to create the tri-district format.
Very good. Frank or Attorney Tiernan, did you want to add anything further on that?
Yeah, so we are doing the RFP. What anecdotally seems obvious is our manager of the police pension fund is very well received and has had great success. We just are starting a new purchasing person, so I expect to give him that RFP to go out this week. Frank can confirm. I think he's starting this week, right, Frank?
Yeah, we're starting to make that transition.
Yeah. So he will get that RFP out this week, and we, although it'll be, I don't have the authority to switch. It will be an RFP that all can join, including our library trust fund and all the different fire districts. The investor for the manager for the police pension already does the West Shore Fire District pension management. So if that person is the winning bidder in the end, I think we should have success in having better management of those funds at a lower cost.
Great. Do you have a time frame for the deliberation by the District Commission and when we expect to be able to implement?
Yeah, so we put the RFP out. Yeah, we put the RFP out this week. In 2 weeks, we'd probably be able to identify through due diligence and reasonable analysis who is the preferred manager of the funds to recommend. And then we would make those recommendations to the individual fire districts, and we would allow the library to join on their trust fund, and of course we would look at other managed funds, including the OPEB fund, to see if we can get a little more return on those investments at a conservative and fiscally sound way.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question, sort of switching gears for Frank. It occurs to me, Frank, this is a reval year, correct? It looks like you've got increases in your grand list, and as we were earlier discussing, the decreases in the mill rate, that is something that would certainly be something you would expect during a reval year if you had significant growth in the grand list, which you did have pretty decent growth in the grand list. So I'd like you to comment on that, and I don't know if you can answer the question off the top of your head, but one of the things that I usually like to look at is to look at median, look at different classes of property, certainly, but one of the classes that I would look at would be single family, look at your median single family values pre and post revaluation, and then compare when the median single-family tax bill is pre and post valuation. And obviously, you can do that for various classes of property. You can do that for, condominiums. You can do that for commercial properties. Although median commercial property assessment may be, kind of less useful. But certainly, looking at your single-family and your condominiums is full information to have as you're evaluating, your budget. Can you talk about whether you've done that at all and what those results were? So,
I can.
Yeah, Michael Mylon has done that analysis, and I'll let him talk to it.
There's an appendix. Good morning, this is Michael. There's an appendix that I believe Julian sent out to all of you, and I put together some information, and then I collaborated with Julian to refine it. And in that appendix, on pages 3, 4, 5, and 6, Tom, there's sort of a sampling of some of what you were asking about. On page 3, there's a sampling of 5 or 6 of the largest commercial properties, the before and the after, with the valuations, and then with the new mill rates. And then on pages 4, 5, and 6, it's primarily residential, but it doesn't necessarily pick out types of properties. What I asked the assessor to do was to go through, and what she did was she looked at the 3 fire districts, and she took a sampling of properties, 4 properties from each of the fire districts, and that's what's represented on pages 4, 5, and 6. It provides that information that you asked for in terms of the comparison, but I can't tell you by looking at this, what are the single-family houses, what are the multifamily houses, and because we've deleted the actual property locations, certainly I can't even identify that. But, so we've looked, and then we took it further and looked at other properties, but we didn't incorporate it into this. We have tried, and then I know she's in the process of trying to isolate by types of houses. Because of the reliance on the revaluation company for a lot of this information, because the staff is not yet trained in how to access this. It just takes a little time to get, but we could also do that. We had wanted to do it. She's trying to do it manually, but at this moment in time, this is the best sampling that we have available. Were you able to find the documents?
yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing me in that direction, and I'm kind of looking at it now, so I guess I need a little time to look it over, but I do appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
It looks like on page 6, are these are residentials, okay?
These are all residentials, yeah, and some of them could be, many bedrooms, some could be 1 or 2 bedrooms. We don't have that identified, I could find it. But again, what she did was she just sampled the 3 districts kind of arbitrarily from low to high, just so we could get a sense of the range of impact.
Right. So I would recommend trying to pull median numbers. If you can get median numbers, that is helpful. So.
Okay. Yeah, this is a work in progress, and we'll keep pushing.
To go back a step, Madam Secretary, you were suggesting that
unexpected revenue be directed to the fire department interest funds. And I do understand that. But my understanding is also that there is next to no funding of the OPEB liability. I'm just wondering if some combination of resignees might be warranted.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. But again, your point that, we've asked for a long time about when the fire department's hit the wall, in that they're not able to make the current OPEB contribution, so that you know how long you have to fix the problem.
That's right. So it sounds like, at least when it comes to the Arlington Fire Fund, we'd like to see revisions made to the proposal as drafted, particularly as Bob just very well articulated. And then with respect to the general fund, Mayor, it would just be good to know what the backup plan would be in the event the guidance does not give the flexibility we're hoping for on the use of the ARP funds for 1.75 million. Those are the two items that I think are most critical for you to get back to the subcommittee on, and then of course any follow-up information that Tom asked for, anything else that came up that Julian and Kim will convey. And what I'd like to do is have you make those adjustments. We'll submit that back to the subcommittee. We can schedule a very quick, hopefully a brief special meeting. Assuming they have passed muster, then we would recommend moving this forward to the full board.
Madam,
Did I miss anything, Kim? And then anyone else has other comments or feedback they want to give us, David?
we need to compare this to the 5-year plan, Madam, so that we can see the impact of this one-time funding and then how it plays out after the season. So, I know that you're working on that, Frank, but usually it's don't, get to a recommendation until we can see the 5-year plan. When do you think we'll have that, Frank?
I've started working on it last week, once the budget was completed. I can certainly make some assumptions around some of the additional pilot funding and get it to you as soon as possible. I would say if you give me, say, 2 weeks to get the new models built and populated and refined, I would hope to have something for you by the next, say, the full MARB meeting.
Yeah.
So why don't we'll work on timeline offline.
Right.
For today, we'll know that there are some adjustments required to follow up in the 5-year plan, so we can see the full picture. And with that, if everyone's good, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda. Any other questions, comments? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
I do have one more.
Okay, cool. Go right ahead.
The filling of the HR generalist position is slotted to be filled in October, and I know that the current director is going to be retiring in June. So my recommendation would be not to wait to fill that position until October.
Can I comment on that? The plan is, first off, we're going to have to replace the current finance director with another, or personnel, sorry, Frank, sorry, I'm not a finance. The personnel director. Come on, we gotta have some laughs sometimes, right?
Don't encourage him.
The personnel director. The personnel director is going to have to be replaced. So the plan is, I don't want to hire the under people until I have a personnel director, and that's why I have the lag of 3 months, so that the new personnel director can become acclimated with the position and everything that's going on, and we will start at that point in time interviewing for the HR generalist. And that was the reason for it. I need a personnel director, I just can't put a HR generalist in and hope that that person's a personnel director. The charter mandates it, and I'm going to follow our city charter, because so far the changes didn't take place, unfortunately, with the charter revision.
So when is your plan to fill the personnel director?
I want to fill it, well, I would start interviewing prior to July the 1st because I want the person to be able to take the position on July the 1st. So I would say I'm looking at least 6 weeks out from July the 1st, if not a little longer, because as you know, this is a high-level position. So I want to get it out there and see what type of pool we have, and then do the same thing with interviewing as we're doing now for the Director of Planning. And, we got a lot of good resumes for that, and I'm hoping we're going to get many, many good resumes for the Personnel Director.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Very cool. And we're going to move on to item number 4 on our agenda, it's an update regarding the corrective action plan, and I will ask the mayor or her designee to provide that update.
So from the only thing that we've really moved forward on, and that's my fault, 25 hours a day for the last couple of weeks have been spent on the budget, so now that ADP is live, we have gone through 2 pay cycles with them. The individual who will be moving into purchasing will start that transition this week. So with that, we should be able to take care of any issues regarding the purchasing section of the issues that need to be dealt with. I don't have any other items, at least on the city side, that we have moved forward with. I'm hoping that now that the budget is out of the way, we can start focusing on getting some of those other issues fixed.
Julian, anything on the corrective action plan?
Only that we're always looking for the updated, reflecting the new findings, beginning, as a recurring item on the agenda going forward.
Okay.
Very good. Any questions on the corrective action plan update? All right. Moving on, we'll move on to the update on the ADP implementation. Frank, is that you as well?
So ADP is live. We have gone through 2 payroll cycles with them. Things are working well. There are still, a couple of bumps in the road that are being, that they're shaking out. One of which I'd like ADP to work on is we're still trying to make sure that the geofencing option for individuals who are clocking in from their phone will be required to do so within a 15-foot radius of the time clock and not, a mile and a half away. So they're working on that. There are some issues that they're still trying to get corrected for the general ledger mapping and the feeds. So Bob had some kickouts this week that they're working through, but I would say at this point, very pleased with where we are with the overall project. I know is Matt on the phone? No, I think,
Yeah, I'm here.
oh, you are, okay. Did you want to give a quick update on the Board of Ed side? I think we're running the Board of Ed payroll through Munis this week as opposed to ADP. There were a couple of mapping issues.
Yeah, so what happened is I requested that they ADP upload our deduction information prior to us going live, so we had the latest greatest information in there. When they uploaded it, unfortunately, it wiped out everything that was already in the system. So ADP was very uncomfortable with sending direct deposits out without pre-noting the bank accounts once more, so they asked us to go through Munis one more time, and I think going forward we should be all set with ADP.
Very good. That you have troubleshooted what graded the wiping out of all the data?
Yeah, it was on their side. I think they did like a global import instead of a selected import, and it wiped out, everything that was imported once before.
Well, you're making progress, and we will be very pleased you actually using your system of record to run payroll and help streamline, ensure the data is all in the system of record and eliminate the manual work. So, sounds like you're making continued progress. Any other questions on the ADP implementation?
Do you have an updated, action item log of the last one we received was in February, just so that we can see the, items that are still pending to be resolved?
I do not have one, but I will reach out to ADP once I'm done with this call.
Thank you, Frank.
Yep.
And just as a reminder to the board, part of the reasons for the focus on the corrective action plan, the implementation are the audit findings and other areas of weakness that for long-term structural sustainability and to make sure you have the infrastructure to be successful. So hence the reason for focusing on this item.
Yep.
All right, with that, we have gotten through our 2 updates and a review of the budget, and I just want to open it up to any other questions. I think that Frank would like to get from 24 hours a day of work down to maybe 20. So you're saying. Is there anything else that we want to ask of West Haven? This is a good meeting, this is great progress, and you guys should be very proud. So continued work, and with that, let me just say that our goal is to have a full MARB review of your budget on April 8th. OSCAN usually then provides clarity on guidance by April 15th. Early May, and final MARB action at a May meeting, worst case, obviously June. We'll all be holding on for guidance from the Fed, clarity on the state budget, and as soon as we have any updates, we'll make sure they come.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn? 30 minutes early. We're getting good at this.
4 years later, but.
You have it down, so moved.
Very good.
All order.
Great.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Great. All right. Looks like we just need to formally do a roll call.
Good job, still there.
Thanks everyone for your help today.